Hi, this is Craig Lane with Video Blog Week 42. This week we're going to talk about mantras, or I'll call them viruses in the old programming. We've all been conditioned, and I've been conditioned in a way. And I'll start off by saying it. I am conditioning you, the viewer, to remember my name, Craig Lane, my business or my mission, you might say. I hate referring to the fact that um, my business, so in a sense, my practice is health alchemy, or the alchemical methods of healing and health. And really, I'm more interested in total health than I am as nutrition or herbs or body work or acupuncture or chiropractic. Really is more about root level healing and coming back to our wholeness, which has already and always been here in a sense. So um, mantras are an interesting thing in that we call them affirmations, or short sayings that we repeat over and over again. And I remember back in the day it seemed so mechanical, and it was one of the Tibetan ones of, may I be peaceful and at ease. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be happy. So there can be those three lines can be repeated in various ways. And I was a very unhappy and angry young man, and I think that part of it was because I was sort of sheltered as a child, and my mother did, bless her heart, didn't want me to see, I think, sort of what the world was like, and I had this great sort of sheltered childhood, and then as a teenager I began to see that the world I had been conditioned to see in the United States was not what I had thought. Like manifest destiny was conditioning. The white man was destined to slaughter the Indians and take the continent. And then I began to see, as I got older, the ridiculousness of that, of making a treaty with another culture and then breaking it just because there was resources to take, or gold or oil or whatever, or because it suited the powers of money at the time. So the mantra, if you will, is that I found a bit at the time, I found it a bit mechanical. And really, a mantra begins to take effect when it begins to affect things deeper than the mind, like the heart and the guts and the being. And so really the mechanical part of it, one must sort of bear through and trust that what they're given. Like I didn't have a spiritual teacher. I just had some part of me that really couldn't accept the way I was, and knew that I needed to reprogram this myself out of this matrix. So if you saw the movie, the Matrix, it's like take the red pill, and then you wake up and you realize you've been in a dream, and that's really what a lot of us are in. And my teacher currently, over the last 13 years, once said, it's a great saying because it's really a great pointer, in that you're really deluded when you don't even know you're deluded. So you're really asleep and don't even know you're asleep. So I think that for me, it was like kind of waking up and going, whoa, there's a lot of grief for a number of years of like, how asleep have I been? And oh my God, what a waste of time. So this mantra was very helpful for me. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be happy. And that's one example. The Tao Te Ching is full of sayings as such, little verses. And this video blog, the point isn't necessarily to give a mantra, but it's pointing out to each of you, because all of us have things that our parents or grandparents, people that we've respected in our lives, in our family, or a teacher in school, or a relative, or a friend, or even a spiritual or a health teacher, or even a doctor has told us, and it just sort of rings in us. And I remember there are people in my path have told me, students and patients and clients or whatever, have said, what you told me XYZ years ago, I'd see them 10, 20 years later, really changed my life. And I bonk myself in the head and go, wow, what did I say? And often it was something that I knew as a function. One of my functions is a messenger, and things will pop in me, like you need this plant, or you need this food, or this saying might be good for them. And so one of the things about that is this mantra, to go back to that, is if we get through the mechanical and keep repeating it, there's a point where it starts to spin like a record in our head. You have that song that sort of goes over and over and over again. It's like that song that kind of just pops in spontaneously. I have a Led Zeppelin song, "Ramble On," has been with me for days now, and I'm driving my girlfriend crazy about, just singing this song and having a good time with it. But it's there maybe just because it's there, and so um, who knows? But these mantras, it's like Bob Marley lyrics would often pop up, and I asked my teacher about it a few years back, or a number of years back, about, it seems like in a situation, something from the Tao Te Ching, something I'd read years ago, or this Bob Marley lyrics, or this Tibetan mantra will pop in, and then there's a certain dropping in and feeling of like, oh, I'm back here, I'm back in my body, I'm not identified with the movie out there, nor my own drama. And my teacher said at the time, really trust that. So there were times in traffic where the Tibetan mantra would pop in. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. And very helpful. And that's where now I find myself, like my mantra now, what I fill my head with when I'm sort of down is just I'm reading a book or books that inspire me. One of the books right now, for whatever reason, I was drawn to it because I recommended it to my assistant months and months ago, was The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley. And the book is told the Arthurian tale of the Excalibur and the Holy Grail from the legend perspective of the women more, and written by a woman. And I found this book sort of lifts me up and takes me out of my world and gives me another perspective on things and archetypally what's going on. So I think it's really, for me, it's been really important just to recognize that, these mantras, if you will, they can be incredibly helpful, and that we don't have to use the Eastern terminology. We can call them affirmations as we would in the West, or viral, sort of like our own programming viruses to break the conditioning that's in us. So if we have an addiction, like 2 weeks ago, video blogs on week 40, I believe, was like how to sit with a craving. One way we can sit with a craving or an impulse to shop even, oh my God, I gotta go treat myself, or those stories that play out in our mind is we could have some kind of saying in our head, or just remembering, or even going back to a song. And the careful point here is that to remember we don't do these things to bypass or go around the thing that's root level of that craving. It's really, if it's recycling, whatever it is, this craving is recycling, then it's there for a reason. And often it's just getting back to that curiosity. These mantras are more like we've sat in it long enough, or we're in a context of maybe sitting quietly, and our mind might be driving us crazy. So instead of because the mind is a tool for awareness, it's using that tool to facilitate a more satisfying experience. And if we want our theater of our own life to be sort of more conscious, perhaps, then we can choose a tool that might give us a more satisfying experience. Like, oh, I'm going to try this affirmation, or sing this tune over in my head. And toning and chanting are part of that. Like, finding a sound that might help bring us back, because sound is really a reverberation into our cells, like Om. And not doing it from our heads, but really feeling it, and feeling it like I can feel it reverberating in my cells, and how just this instantaneous, like, oh, yeah, I'm back here, whatever it is I am. So this is video blog week 42, mantras, affirmations, viral deconditioners, we'll call them. Craig Lane with Health Alchemy signing out.